Hello and welcome to Horror Boys. I am Austin, joined as always by Chris. He'll talk in a minute. I'm sure he has thoughts on this, but I wanted to not start with a bit, not be silly, not have fun, because real life sucks right now for a lot of people involved in, the entertainment business, which, I hope one day this to profit off of said entertainment business. We're talking about movies and, writers and actors deserve the credit a lot for what they do. And the AMPTP sucks right now, what they're doing. The fact that they're, an unknown executive, had the audacity to say things like, we're going to wait out the strike until they can't pay for their houses or apartments
until they starve.
Yeah, that's bullcrap. I'm gonna try not to actually curse here because I'm mad enough that I would, but we still don't curse on the podcast. I won't say poop for this, but it's crap. It sucks what they're doing, because without writers and without actors who have now joined the strike, this wouldn't exist. These billionaires would not be billionaires if it wasn't for the work of the laborers that they now don't want to, give basic stuff to. A guarantee that, hey, we won't replace you with a computer.
Yeah.
Crazy that not only that. And then specifically, I believe it's Universal. It's not nothing again. They all suck because they're all part of this. But Universal specifically, cut down the trees on the sidewalk that the people were picketing on, even though
to reduce the shade.
Yeah. No, Chris, it was an annual thing they do every year, except for they haven't in over 3 years. And it also,
they don't have the proper permits for it or anything.
It's almost like they just wanted to make people who were in a picket line suffer because they're horrible people. And I'll be honest, I thought about, there was different places to go at this point. There was talks with me and Chris about just completely pivoting what we cover, because that's what Dead Meat is doing, and I love Dead Meat. They're kind of my inspiration in a lot of ways, what we do and how we cover things. And they talked to their SAG rep, and they decided that they're not going to be covering anything that is struck work, anything made by AMPTP. But, then there's also the Boy Meets World podcast, Pod Meets World, I think is what it's called. They are all actors and, are choosing to keep doing their podcast because their SAG rep said that it's fine. And I also saw things where it's as long as you give credit to, the writer stuff, which is something we've been doing for months.
True.
Not since the very beginning, because, the podcast evolved and all that. But for a while, because I realized that all the people who work on these movies matter.
Right.
And... yeah, we almost didn't cover the Re-Animator series or Halloween that's coming up after this because of it. But we're going to continue with our previously scheduled plans. So screw AMPTP. I am fully in solidarity with WGA and SAG-AFTRA. I don't want to speak for Chris, but as he's, agreeing as we're saying this, we both feel this way. We support them. We are going to do our best to give the right people credit as we go through this. I don't ever mention studios, and then I don't have a problem with that. I think that's the way it should be, because they're not really important.
Yeah, they kind of just usually fund the projects.
Yeah.
So with that all said, an extra big thanks to our writers, co-writers, and actors and actresses, and really all the behind-the-scenes people who worked on any of these films. And remember, if you liked any of these films, remember that's all because of them, and that everything that the AMPTP is doing now is trying to take down all of that hard work that they all put forth.
Yeah, it's heartless, it's evil, it's literally just to try to make their bottom line bigger.
Yep.
And it's
inhumane.
It's inhumane,
really what
it's disgusting. I don't remember where I saw the statistic, and I don't 100% know if it's true, so take it with a grain of salt in case it's not true. But I heard that if the top 10 CEOs involved in the AMPTP took a 2% pay cut, these billionaires took a 2% pay cut, all of the financial requests from the WGA and SAG-AFTRA would be met. And also, like the whole get over wanting to use AI. One, all the AI stuff sucks right now. And even if it ever gets to the point where it's not, one, it'll be built off of people whose work was probably put into it illegally, or either way, it's the creativity won't be there. It's not it'll never be worth doing. And even if it ever gets to the point where it seems like it's worth doing, it was probably due to them illegally training the AI off of someone else's work.
Yeah.
So screw AI, screw AMPTP, and we support those who are striking. And anything. If there's some strike I don't know about right now, guess what? Strikes are normally for the people in the unions are normally the ones who are right, not the businesses they're striking from. And if I offended anyone from what I just said here, bye. Didn't want you in the first place. Didn't realize you were here.
Oops.
So yeah,
let's not at all.
Yeah, let's change tones. We got through the serious stuff, and I think it was important. And then, as you saw, we didn't open with our normal intro, and it's important. I wanted to say that stuff, but we're still going to cover a really awesome movie right now. At least that's my opinion. We'll see if that's Chris's opinion, and we'll get to that later. Oh no, I spoiled my opinion before I even did pre-notes. Whatever. I know. I really enjoy this movie, and I want to talk about it, and there's a lot of people who did some great work on it. So let's talk about our pre-notes, which is where we talk about all the people who work behind the scenes. Our director and co-writer is the late Purdy-Gordon of Castle Freak, Dolls, Body Snatchers, and From Beyond, alongside Horror Bois alums Ken Foray of Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, makeup artist Michael Deek of Freddy's Dead, Jack Frost and Friday the 13th Part 7, and Jeffrey Combs of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Co-writers, we have Dennis Powley of From Beyond, Castle Freak, The Dentist, and Body Snatchers, alongside Horror Bois alums Meg Tilly of Chucky Season 2, Christina Leese of Child's Play 2, Cult of Chucky, and the Chucky TV series, makeup artist Jake Garber of Scream 3 and Texas Chainsaw Massacre The Beginning, and the late Arlie Ermey of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 03 and The Beginning, Texas Chainsaw Massacre The Beginning. Our third co-writer is Brian Usna of Society, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, From Beyond, Castle Freak, The Dentist 1 and 2, Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 and 5, and Faust, alongside Horror Bois alums Mark Frost of Mayhem, Andrew Divoff of Wishmaster, makeup artist Screaming Mad George of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, 4, and Jack Frost. Not Nightmare on Elm Street, Jack Frost. I want to see that now, though.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Jack Frost. Oh, I want to see that. Let me see.
It's winter.
Really clever Freddy writing go up against not clever Jack Frost writing in the same movie. Also in... which movie is this? Faust. Jeffrey Combs is also in it.
Yeah.
As you're going to see throughout most of this, a lot of these people work together a bunch. So you're going to hear a lot of the same movies over and over again be mentioned.
Oh.
Now it's a little... We're stopping pre-notes to give a fun fact. You guys ready for that? Ready for some fun facts? I think it's time for some fun facts. Brian Usna, who is also a producer on the movie, decided to release this movie unrated, so the MPAA didn't ruin it.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a fun fact,
Interesting.
And this movie definitely has tons of gore and some nudity and whatnot, which especially in the mid '80s, that's when they started really cracking down on horror for that.
Big no.
Yeah, it was like 84 or so was around the cutoff, and this is 85. So this is when you get like a lot of those Friday the 13th movies that really suck because everything was cut out of them.
Yeah.
It is also based on the book, or actually I believe it might be the series of books, technically, by the late H.P. Lovecraft, who is the creator of Cthulhu and a racist piece of trash.
Yeah.
If you don't know why, Google it.
Yeah. Go look up his cat's name.
Yep.
That's enough said.
Yep. Composer of this movie is Richard Band of Ghoulies, Troll, Terror Vision, Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, Castle Freak, From Beyond, Dr. Mordred, every Puppet Master film except for Retro, a bunch more of his son Charles of Full Moon films, and Prison alongside Horror Bois alums, director Remy Harlan of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, makeup artist and actor William Butler of Friday the 13th Part 7 and Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. The late Tom Tiny Lister Jr. of Santa's Sleigh. Tom Everett of Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter and Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Viggo Mortensen of Leatherface Chapter 3. And Kane Hodder of Friday the 13th, 7 through 10. Oh, sorry, X. Hatchet franchise and the Hatchet franchise, not Hatchet and franchise. I don't know what yeah, he's part of Hatchet. He's part of franchise, and he's also part of Wishmaster. Yeah.
So Prison is another one of those movies. It looks like.
Yeah. Oh boy, there's a movie coming up in the actual like actors. Oh boy, it's a new one.
Oh God,
it's a new one, and oh boy, is there like a lot.
I thought Prison was going to be the new one to add to the list.
No, that's nothing.
Oh, God.
The director of photography is the late Mac Alberg of Ghoulies, From Beyond, House 1 through 3, and Good Burger.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's the, American House films, not the Japanese film House, which I don't believe even has sequels, so there wouldn't be a possibility for it to be House 1 through 3. But just in case there's any confusion, if that's the movie people think of when they hear of House, no, this is the American one. Which is a really weird, trippy movie, the first one. I've only seen the first one, and I still don't know if I know what it was really about. It was a weird movie. We'll probably cover it at some point. Also, Mac Alberg said in the documentary that on a movie he shot later, David Bowie told him that this is his favorite movie. So...
Interesting.
Random fact about this movie is it's David Bowie's favorite movie.
Re-Animator's favorite.
Re-Animator's favorite movie is David Bowie. I agree.
Yeah.
Special makeup effects supervisor is the late John Carl Buechler of From Beyond, Terror Vision, Ghoulies 1 through 3, Doll, Troll, Prison, Halloween's 4 and 6, and is a Horror Boy alum for Hatchet, Friday the 13th, 7, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, and Freddy's Dead. We won't hold that one against him. Because honestly, to be fair, I honestly don't remember the special effects in Freddy's Dead, but it probably wasn't that bad. I mean, the makeup effects were probably decent.
Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street, the special effects are usually decent, if not good.
Yeah. Then I'm also going to bring up two other... I normally only bring up like the supervisor or designer when I'm talking about special effects, just because if not, there's a lot of people who work on movies, and it would take too long to talk about all of them. I'm sorry. It's just the facts. That's what IMDb's for, if you want to know every person who works on it. But these two people who I'm about to mention, these two special effects artists, were both very heavily interviewed and seemed like they talked about things they created to do things in the documentary about the movie. So it felt like, they probably did enough of the work that I definitely want to mention them as well. We got John Nolan of From Beyond, Maniac Cop, and Critters, alongside Horror Boy alums Lynn Shay of Nightmare on Elm Street and New Nightmare, and Billy Greenbush of Jason Goes to Hell. Then we have Anthony Dublin of The Blob, From Beyond, and Willy's Wonderland, alongside Horror Boy alums special effects artist Kenneth J. Hall of Jack Frost, special effects artist Matt Filletta of Jack Frost 2, and Beth Grant of Child's Play 2.
Nice.
Yeah. Our special effects, the explosions and stuff like that, are done by Brett Culpepper of The Stuff.
Stuff.
Yeah, that's about this mad alien marshmallow basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's basically fluff, but it's like a comedy. It's a horror comedy that's a commentary on consumerism.
Oh, okay. Behind that.
Yeah. The stunt coordinator is Dan Bradley of Society, House, Critters 2 through 4, From Dusk Till Dawn to +4, so not 3. Mimic, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Independence Day, Free Willy 3, Spider-Man 2, Bourne Supremacy, Bourne Ultimatum, Bourne Legacy. Oh yeah, and he's a Horror Boy alum for Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Freddy's Dead.
Oops.
He was doing so good. He did Free Willy 3 and Spider-Man 2. But then he had to go out and do Freddy's Dead. Ruining a resume that included Free Willy 3. And, I guess, Independence Day and, Spider-Man 2 and, like, 3 of the Bourne movies for a stunt coordinator. I guess those are kind of big deals.
Yeah. Just kind of.
And now, it's about time to start talking about the movie. But first, who are me and Chris going to be playing in Name Redacted?
Oh.
Or, sorry, Crit. Or, who are we going to be voicing in...
Horror Bois Theater.
I'm not saying that crap ever again.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that was from a different shoot.
No promises from me.
It
may have not ever aired. But
didn't.
Off record, Austin will never say.
Peek behind the curtain. We had to refilm the intro because I was trying to get the right emotion and trying to figure out how to start it. Because I tried to start it normal, and it wasn't a normal intro, so it didn't work. Oops. I want to say one of the times I talked about how I would never say those words again that Chris just said, but then that was never seen by any of you, so we just kept going with a bit that was never really set up to that level.
Yeah.
Like, I joked about how I'd never say it again last week, but I never, had Chris say it like that. That was from something that is not making air. So,
but now it kind of has.
Now it has, because we had to explain that. But hey, whatever.
There you go.
So of our main 5 cast members, the rest we'll do kind of filling in here and there. But these main 5, we're gonna do. I will be voicing Dan and Dr. Hill, while Chris will be voicing Dr. Herbert West, Megan Halsey, and Dean Halsey.
Woo!
Yeah.
Can't wait to go. I
did not put any of Dean Halsey's lines from that time frame on there because they're not lines.
I can't believe this, Austin.
I'm sorry. We open at a medical university in Zurich, Switzerland. A Swiss professor and 2 cops are approaching a Swiss doctor who's waiting outside Dr. Gruber's office. The Swiss professor is played by Ian Patrick Williams of Terrorvision and Dolls, alongside Horror Boy alums the late John Carl Buechler. The cops are played by Derek Pendleton and the late Gene Shearer.
Yeah.
The Swiss doctor is played by the late Bunny Summers of From Beyond and The Last Starfighter, which is directed by Horror Boy alum and the original The Shape, Nick Castle of Halloween. Some would call him the original Michael, but that movie never calls him Michael. He's The Shape. And
he is just The Shape.
The original script. They hear screaming from inside, but when they knock, they get no answer and only hear more screaming and the sound of breaking bottles. The cops break open the door. Inside, they find Herbert West standing over a convulsing Dr. Gruber with a syringe. Herbert West is played by Horror Boy alum Jeffrey Combs of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Dr. Gruber is played...
I still know what you did last summer.
Oh, you're right. My bad.
Yeah.
And also is a technical Horror Boy alum for Dr. Mordred.
That's
the last time we were going to bring that up. I just wanted to bring it up one last time as a joke there.
There we go.
Dr. Gruber is played by Al Berry of The Last Starfighter and Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, alongside Horror Boy alums Nancy Keys of Halloween and stuntman Dick Warlock of Child's Play 2 and 3 and Friday the 13th 5.
Oh.
Yeah. The crops try to pull West away from Gruber, and West says,
"No, you idiots! You'll ruin my notes. I have to record his vital signs."
They pull him away. The Swiss doctor tries to check on Dr. Gruber, but he pops up screaming in pain, and she recoils. Dr. Gruber is bleeding from the mouth, and his eyes are pulsating. His eyes explode out in some fun practical effects, spraying the Swiss doctor with blood. Yeah. That's one thing you can definitely say about this movie, that if anyone tried to say is not true, I'd be like, you're wrong. This movie's got some really fun effects.
Practical effects.
Yeah. Gruber falls over, and the Swiss professor says he's dead in German, and West replies,
"Of course he's dead. The dosage was too large."
The Swiss doctor says, "You killed him."
"No, I did not. I gave him life."
We then get our title card, followed up by our credits. After the credits, We are at the Miskatonic Medical School in Arkham, Mass.
Massachusetts, one might even say.
I mean, people say, man, I'm from Massachusetts. We say Mass, okay? Massachusetts is too long. You think we got time for that? You think we got time for that when we're parking our car in Harvard Yard? No.
Not up in Mass, I tell you that.
Not up in Arkham.
Okay.
Which is not a real place. It's made by known racist and I guess great writer, H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Inside, the joke there is that he was, yes, a very influential sci-fi writer, but he's also a horrible person.
Right.
So, you could be both, guys. You could be a horrible person and technically have talent. He is one of them.
That's true.
Inside, we see the medical student, Dan Kane, and Dr. Herod. Or Herod. It's Herod, I think is how it's pronounced, like the one time we hear it pronounced. I don't know why I try to give it like a more fancy pronunciation.
Herod.
Dr. Herod. That's how we're going to pronounce from now on. Because I think she's only in like 2 more scenes. So she's Dr. Herod. Along with other doctors and nurses trying to save a woman's life. Everyone is ready to call it, but Dan wants to keep trying. Kane says, she just needs a little more time for the drugs to circulate.
Dr. Herod says, Kane, we have done everything that can be done for this woman. She's not responded. She's gone.
Dan finally stops chest compression, and Dr. Herod says,
Kane, your optimism is touching, but a waste of time. A good doctor knows when to stop.
Dan starts to say, Dr. Herod, I just...
Dr. Herod interrupts saying, tag her and take her to the morgue.
Dan Kane is played by Bruce Abbott of Bad Dreams, alongside Horror Bois alums Jennifer Rubin of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Randy Oglesby of Idle Hands, stunt coordinator Anthony Cesare of Nightmare on Elm Street, New Nightmare, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Jack Frost 2, Child's Play, Scream 96, Scream 2, and Scream 2022. That's all the things that guy was in. He was in like 12 things. And then we also have Charles Fleischer of Nightmare on Elm Street 3. That guy was stunt coordinator on all that stuff. Anthony Cesare. I don't know if we've mentioned him on anything but maybe Scream 2022.
I don't think
because we weren't really talking about stunts before that. Oops.
Yeah.
Dr. Herod is played by Carolyn Purdy-Gordon of From Beyond, Dolls, Castle Freak, and ABCs of Death 2.5. She was also the wife of the late director Stuart Gordon. Yeah. There's also only one credited nurse, and I'm not sure what scene she's actually in, so I'll just bring it up now. There is a scene later where a nurse definitely has a line, and this one that's on kind of, so it's probably later, but I'm just gonna mention it here. Nurse is played by Barbara Peters.
Nice.
We follow Dan down to the morgue. The security guard, Mace, who's stationed outside the morgue, says,
Mr. Kane?
Hey, Mace, got another one for you.
Ain't locked. Doc Hill's in the autopsy room.
Oh, thanks. And then Dan opens the door.
Yeah. Don't know why they keep doors locked around here. Nobody wants in, and ain't nobody getting out.
Mace is played by the late Jerry Black of Howling 4 and Silent Night, Deadly Night 5, alongside Horror Bois alums, makeup artist Screaming Mad George of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, 4, and Jack Frost, and makeup artist Michael Deek of Freddy's Dead, Jack Frost, and Friday the 13th 7.
Man, you're like a Freddy's Dead nightmare for you.
Yeah. A lot of people worked on that.
Yeah.
Dan takes the body into the freezer. He then heads back to the autopsy room where Dr. Hill is using a laser drill to make a hole in a corpse's skull. Dr. Hill is played by the late David Gale of The Brain, The Guyver, and Savage Weekend, alongside Horror Bois alum, the late Christopher Alport of Jack Frost 1 and 2.
That's right, it's the main character.
That's right, yeah. Does a really good job, especially in the second one, of just being perfectly delivering the weird lines of that movie just with so much like realism that it did not deserve, but he gave it his all in a way that made it perfect. Like he's genuinely actually like not a bad actor in it at all. He's just giving crap way more than it deserves, to the point where it makes, especially that second one, like, just fun.
Yeah.
Dan is staring intently at Hill, getting a sample of the corpse's brain, so he doesn't notice Dean Halsey enter the room and gets startled by him. Dean Halsey says,
Hey, I'm sorry, Dan. Didn't mean to scare you.
Dan replies, Oh, it wasn't too bad. Dean Halsey, I just didn't know anybody was here. West, who entered the room with Dean Halsey, says,
You mean anybody else?
Dean Halsey says,
Dan, this is Herbert West. He'll be joining you in your 3rd year. He was doing independent research in Switzerland with Dr. Gruber shortly before he died. Mr. West, this is Daniel Kane, one of Miskatonic Medical's best young hopes for the future of medicine.
Dean Halsey is played by the late Robert Sampson of The Dark Side of the Moon and City of the Living Dead, alongside Horror Bois alums director Lucio Fulci, composer Fabio Frizzle, and director of photography Sergio Salvati, all of Zombie, or Zombie 2, or Zombie Flesh Eaters in the UK. Or...
You get the point.
Yeah. Dan asks West, What were you researching?
West replies, Death.
Dr. Hill walks over and says, Alan, we don't see you around here much anymore.
Dean Halsey replies, Well, I was just showing our newest student, Herbert West here, the not-so-grand tour. This should interest you, Carl. He worked with Hans Gruber. Mr. West, this is our eminent brain researcher and grand machine, Dr. Carl Hill. West says, I know your work, Dr. Hill, quite well. Your theory on the location of the will in the brain is interesting. So derivative of Dr. Gruber's research in the earlier 70s. So derivative, in fact, that in Europe it's considered plagiarized, and your support of the 12-minute limit on the life of the brainstem after death...
6 to 12 minutes, Mr.
West. Herbert West. Frankly, Dr. Hill, your work on the brain death is outdated.
Dean Halsey clears his throat and says,
Carl, well, I remember, we're having a grant committee meeting Thursday. Megan and I would love it if you came to dinner.
Well, I'd love to, Alan. Looking forward to it. And, looking forward to seeing you in class, Mr. West. We cut to Dan, hanging an ad looking for a roommate onto the bulletin board. He gets a surprise kiss from Herbert West. No, just kidding.
No,
it's his girlfriend.
It's his girlfriend.
His girlfriend, Megan. They make out before we hard cut to them playing harmonica. Yeah, Dan's apartment. Woo!
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. Megan Halsey is played by Barbara Crampton of From Beyond, Castle Freak, Puppet Master, Chopping Mall, The Lords of Salem, Superhost, You're Next, and Death House, alongside Horror Bois alums Bill Moseley of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D, makeup artist Matt Folletta of Jack Frost 2, Kane Hodder of Friday the 13th 7 through X, the Hatchet franchise and Wishmaster, the late Gunnar Hansen of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Texas Chainsaw, I think it should be 3D, not 03. The late Sid Haig of Hatchet 3, Tiffany Shepis of Victor Crowley, Lloyd Kaufman of Hatchet 2, Felissa Rose of Victor Crowley, Larry Zerner of Friday the 13th 3, Sean Whalen of Hatchet 3 and Idle Hands, Tony Moran of Halloween, R.A. Mihaloff of Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 and Hatchet 2, and National Treasure Tony Todd of Wishmaster, Final Destinations 1 through 3 and 5, Hatchets 1 and 2, and Victor Crowley. So I guess it's time we have to cover Death House, so I don't ever have to do that again.
Death House.
I think we're going to cover Death House next week. We're interrupting your normal programming just so I can never have to do that again.
Yeah, that's fair.
But also, I looked at some of the reviews, and it looks like it is a crappy movie. This is one of those movies that there are actually a decent amount of them where it's just, let's see how many horror people we can get in the movie. It's the Hatchet mindset, which, hey, I like Adam Green's Hatchet franchise, but if in a different set of hands, it's just let's see how many horror people I can bring into a movie. And a lot of people do that. Yeah. Post-musical session, we find out that Megan is Dean Halsey's daughter. What? And she can't spend the night because if her father finds out, it could be bad for Dan.
Yeah.
Dan then chases Megan to the front door wearing a sheet.
He sure does.
Yeah. When she opens the door to leave, there's Herbert West waiting outside. Dan covers himself up and says, "Oh, poop. Hi, can we help you?" West pulls out the ad looking for a roommate. Dan says, "You're here about the apartment."
Yes.
Didn't we meet this morning? You're,
West? Herbert West?
West. Excuse me for just 1 second. He leaves to put clothes on. Megan chuckles and says,
Come in.
West replies,
Thank you. I startled you. Why, yes you did.
Dan returns and says, may I introduce my fiancée, Megan Halsey?
Miss Halsey? Mr. West?
I'm afraid the place is still kind of a mess, Mr. West.
West replies, Oh, Herbert.
So, you've just come from Europe?
West replies, Switzerland.
What was Dr. Gruber like? He was pretty famous.
Yes, pretty famous. Does this building have a basement?
We cut to them all heading down to the basement stairs. West says,
Oh, yes. Yes, I think this will be just fine. I have my things outside. Shall I move in now? Megan says, look, I have to go. I think you and Mr. West have a lot to discuss before you decide anything. West replies, Oh, I've decided.
And he starts to reach into his coat. Dan says, Well, I'd like to...
You know, you'll never even know that I'm here.
Megan says,
Dan, And West pulls out a wad of cash and says, Except, of course, on the 1st of the month. Megan says, Mr. West? West says, Miss Halsey? Megan says, You didn't say why you left Switzerland.
She gives Dan a dirty look. Oh, okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
She gives Dan a dirty look. West scoffs and says,
There was no more I could learn there. Do we have a deal?
Dan ignores Megan's obvious objections and takes the money, saying, Done. West, with a smirk to Megan, says,
Done.
We cut to a class in the autopsy room being taught by Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill explains and demonstrates how to peel back a scalp, not scar, and use a bone saw to reveal a human brain, which is actually a cow's brain in this scene.
Huh.
Yeah. They did not actually have a human brain in this scene.
Well, yeah, it does make sense.
Dr. Hill says, Once the brainstem of an individual, I'm talking about the reticular activated system, heart regulation, respiratory center. Once the activities cease, the brain can only survive an additional 6 to 12 minutes. 6 to 12 minutes. Until brain death brings an irreversible conclusion. West breaks a pencil in response and prepares another pencil. Dr. Hill continues, We all want to retain our personalities in some idyllic afterlife. We all pray for some miracle, some drug, potion, pill. Perhaps, though, it takes something else. Perhaps it takes desire, an obsessive desire. Perhaps it takes... Dr. Hill is interrupted by West breaking another pencil. Dr. Hill angrily concludes, We will discuss the location of the will in the brain structure at another time. Mr. West, I suggest you get a pen. Class dismissed. West gets up and says,
How can you teach such drivel? These people are here to learn, and you're closing their minds before they even have a chance.
What are you here for, Mr. West?
You should have stolen more of Gruber's ideas. Then at least you'd have ideas.
Mr. West, it's going to be a pleasure to fail you. And he storms off. We cut to Halsey, the Halsey home, where Dr. Hill is joining the Halseys for dinner. Dean Halsey says,
I would like to propose a toast to the National Science Foundation for recognizing the genius of Dr. Carl Hill and for awarding Miskatonic Medical School its largest grant ever. Your new laser drill is going to revolutionize neurosurgery.
Dr. Hill takes a break from creepily staring at Megan to say, to the Foundation and to Miskatonic. They toast their glasses, but Megan doesn't take a drink, so Dean Halsey says,
It's all right, sweetheart. You can drink up. We're celebrating. Megan replies, I know, Daddy, but I have to go soon.
After preparing such a feast, you must be tired.
Megan says, I have a study date. And Dean Halsey asks, with Daniel? Megan replies, yeah.
Daniel Kane?
Mm-hmm.
Herbert West has moved in with him, hasn't he?
For the time being.
The doorbell rings, and Megan continues.
Oh, that must be him. Excuse me.
So, your daughter is seeing Kane, eh? You think that's wise, Alan?
Dan!
Hello, sir. Dr. Hill?
Dean Halsey asks, Would you join us for a glass of wine?
Dan looks at Megan, who shakes her head no, and so he replies, Of course I will. I don't listen to what this chick tries to tell me. Oh, sorry. That was just what I would have assumed from the last scene we had. Her obviously sending him signals, but this time he actually picked up on it. And he says,
Good job.
Actually, we have some work to do. Why don't you study here? Well, I'll have her home soon. Don't worry. Well then, one last toast, to Megan, my esteemed colleague's capable, beautiful, loving daughter, the obsession of all who fall under her spell. Megan gives an awkward, uncomfortable smile. We cut to Dan's place. Woo, Dan's place!
Yay, Dan's place.
This is my new thing I'm trying out. We're going to do theme songs for every place we go to. A dance place!
Dan's place.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only one, actually. I lied. Dan's trying to make a move on Megan while they're studying, but she turns it down. Dan asks, okay, what is it? I don't know why every male character is just, bro. Which is great. He doesn't sound like a bro, but he acts like an idiot.
Yeah, he kind of does.
He's kind of an idiot.
I don't know. Look, it's not you, really. It's just a lot of little things.
Like what?
Well, West is always in his room with the door closed. I mean, do you ever see him? Does he ever eat?
I told you, he's a little cracked.
He bothers you too.
No, don't be ridiculous.
Rufus is terrified of him. When West comes in, he runs and hides.
Rufus runs and hides all the time. It's standard cat activity.
Yes, but not when we're together. Then he's all over us, trying to get your attention, and... Where is he? I haven't seen him since we got here.
It's okay, he's around here somewhere.
I haven't even heard him. Usually at least knock something over when I'm here.
Megan starts calling out for Rufus, and Dan joins
Rufus!
in. She actually doesn't say Rufus. She says, she starts with like a...
She goes...
Here, kitty, here, kitty. But I didn't want to write down all of that nonsense dialogue, so I just said...
You don't want to write down piss, 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 piss? Here, kitty, here, kitty?
No, I'm good on that.
Oh, well...
Oh, where are you, fat cat? Oh, sorry, I wasn't going to write it down. I guess I did, though.
I wrote it down in here.
Yeah, I wrote it down inside my brain. So they get up to go look for him. The music starts to get tense. And Megan goes into West's room. She opens his mini... She sees his mini fridge ajar and opens
glowing.
it.
I said, and glowing.
Oh, yeah.
Ajar and glowing.
Yeah. She finds Rufus's corpse, and we see the glow of the reagent, which, fun fact, is just glow sticks. It's opened up glow sticks.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's the reagent. Megan says.
Oh, Dan, he did it.
West walks in and says,
What are you doing in my room? How dare you come into my room?
Megan yells.
Dan! Dan!
Dan joins them and says, What's the matter? What's the matter?
I thought I was renting a private room, Dan.
Meg, what the hell are you doing in here?
It really is ridiculous. Would you please leave? Now?
Easy.
In the fridge!
Dan looks over and sees the cat's corpse.
Oh, I found it.
No.
Oh, I was going to show you.
Yeah. Shut up! What happened?
It was dead when I found it. Megan says, You killed him. He hated you.
Dan says, Meg.
Wes explains, It suffocated. It knocked the garbage over and it got its head stuck in a jar. You weren't home, so I put it in there. Certainly didn't think you'd want to find it like that. Did not want to stink the place up either. I was going to show you.
You couldn't call or write a note?
I was busy pushing bodies around, as you well know, and what would a note say? Dan, cat dead, details later. I knew you were fond of it. Megan says, You killed him. I know you did. You killed him. Wes says, Besides, I do not like people in my room.
Dan says, Alright, that's enough.
I think you both better leave. Now.
Dan grabs the reagent and asks, What the hell is this?
That is none of your business.
Yeah, I think it is my business.
Just as it's none of my business that you're sleeping with Dean Halsey's daughter. You know, I would not want to see a fellow student, especially one as promising as yourself, be thrown out of school, out of profession, on moral grounds.
What are you talking about? She never spends the night. We never get to sleep together. Oh, you mean... Oh, sorry. What was my actual line? I think Dr. Halsey would just might understand.
Says, Oh, do you? Well, you might be right. Are you sure you want to find out?
We cut to later in the night when Dan is woken up by a cat screeching. We didn't need the cat screeching sound, but thank you, Chris.
No, I think you did.
He arms himself with a bat and follows the sound of the commotion to the basement door. He shoves it open and falls down the stairs, where Wes is struggling with a cat on his back. Dan tries to figure out what's going on, but Wes tells him he'll explain later. After a bit of trying to catch the cat, it flies out and hits Dan in the face. Dan throws it against the wall, killing it. He looks at the bloody corpse and realizes it was Rufus. Dan asks, How?
Wes yells, Look out!
Dan turns away, and Wes starts laughing maniacally. So you'll do a cat noise, but you won't even try to laugh maniacally? Really? That's not at all what he actually did, though. So you should have remembered from the scene. He just kind of won't stop laughing, like it's the funniest joke he ever told.
Yeah, it is less maniacally and more like
he's a psychopath who's gone crazy,
insanely.
Yeah, but that's what it's the literal. It said maniacally on the screen, so I just wrote that down. But yeah, you're right. It really wasn't. We cut to West explaining.
It's really, really quite simple. All life is a physical and chemical process, correct? It stands to reason, then, that if one could find extremely fresh specimens and recharge that chemical process, bang, we have reanimation.
The theory is not new, West.
But my reagent is.
Dan doesn't know how to read. How to read? I know I'm in college, but, I don't know how to read yet.
Oh.
Sorry, actually, okay, let me try. I'll read it out. I'll try to read it out. I'll sound it out. With various animating solutions, I have killed and brought to animated life a number of rabbits, guinea pig, because he can't read, so it says guinea pig, but he wouldn't know how to pronounce that. Cats and doges.
I've broken the 6 to 12 minute barrier. I've conquered brain death.
Dan continues reading. With the higher animals and the consequent increase of the solution, the reaction has become more violent. Violent. My research has become more difficult.
Wes says, which is why I need you to help me.
Help you?
You are the perfect person to assist me. Dumb.
What?
Stupid. Will listen to everything I tell you without asking questions.
Okay.
I mean, hardworking, bright, and people respect you because you're a man, and that's it.
Well, that's not what it says here.
I mean, because people respect you, and you have access to certain authorities. We can defeat death. We can achieve every doctor's dream. You'll be famous, and live lifetimes.
You haven't done this on people. West looks away as to not answer and says,
I've done all I can here. I'll need new lab space. You will help me.
No!
Why? Because it's mad?
No, because I don't believe you.
How can you say that? You've seen the results.
I lost my place. Oh, here I am. No, Rufus wasn't dead to begin with. You drugged him and reduced his vital signs. You lowered his body temperature. He couldn't have been dead.
Do you agree that he's dead now?
He picks up Rufus and drops him on the table and asks again.
Do you agree that he's dead now?
Dan nods. And West goes to grab reagent. Then Dan says, West, no! West, stop!
I'll show you. Then you'll help me.
No!
Yes, you will. That is why I brought the infernal beast back to life in the first place.
West injects the corpse and says,
Don't expect it to tango. It has a broken back.
It starts to twitch and squeal. Dan asks, Why does it make that noise?
Birth is always painful.
He was dead.
Twice.
Megan comes in and screams at the sight of the twice dead, thrice alive, mangled Rufus.
Nice.
She said, what? Am I wrong?
The twice dead, thrice alive is just funny.
Thank you. I was proud of that. She says,
Oh, it's him!
Meg, what are you doing here? I'm having bro time in the basement. Get lost.
We're just reanimating our dead cat.
Yeah.
It's just things to
I swear. Me and I swear it's nothing. Me and Herbert were just looking at a dead cat. Wait, no.
So anyway. Tim, Dan asks, Meg, what are you doing here?
Megan says,
I say it's Rufus.
Dan takes her upstairs. We cut to the next day, with Dan in a meeting with Dean Halsey. Dan says, Herbert West has effected reanimation in dead animal tissue.
Mr. Kane, I'm surprised.
No, I've seen it. He brought back a dead animal, a cat, back to life.
I hadn't expected such nonsense from you, Mr. Kane, but I should have guessed it when you took up with Mr. West.
I know he's unstable, but I've seen the results. And so is your daughter. She crashed our bro time. I mean, sorry, you're lying.
And what have you been doing with my daughter?
She walked into our experiment.
You've involved Megan in your insanity?
No, she kind of just showed up. I mean, I never intended to involve her.
Yeah, really, you delved into the bro.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is what Dan sounds like.
Oh, boy. All right. Tomorrow morning, you will submit to me a written apology for this entire affair.
It's still your line.
Ah, yes, it is. These experiments were clearly beyond the scope of your legitimate studies. They've obviously interfered with your ability to do your classwork. If any equipment from the hospital or from the laboratories of Miskatonic University were involved in any of this unauthorized activity, criminal charges may be pressed. And you will, in any case, have your student loan rescinded.
My loan? I won't be able to continue school.
And as for Mr. West, he need submit no apology. You may tell him that he may continue with his research without the impediment of an education. As of now, he is no longer a student of this university.
Sir, can we please just discuss this? I think you're being blinded by your emotions.
That will be all, Mr. Kane.
Dan gets up to leave and says, "Don't take this out on Meg.
I
She
said...
tried to stop me. I'm not done with my line. I was just taking a heavy pause because I forgot I had more line.
That's fair.
She tried to stop
said...
me. She tried to stop me."
I did that intentionally. I hope you know that.
She tried to stop me.
I said that will be all.
We cut to Dan wheeling a body to the morgue. Mace says,
So they keep on coming, huh?
"Oh yeah." It wasn't gonna be this. I tried to do just a normal voice, but it didn't happen.
Austin's been infected by the bro virus.
Yeah.
Oh,
I also really we haven't seen him in a while, but when Dr. Hill comes back, he might have like a full German accent. I haven't decided.
Oh God.
Because he does have a little bit of like a German accent, even though the accent is
vaguely.
British. It comes across as German. But that's not the point. Mace says, "I said, oh yeah."
Mm-hmm.
So Mace
And
unlocks the door to the morgue, and then Mace tries to look under the sheet, saying,
You ain't got my lunch under there, have you?
Dan stops him, and we see West is under the sheet. Dan says, "Yeah, one meatball run over by a semi."
Ew, I lost my appetite. You gonna be around for a while? I might go catch me something like a coffee.
"Take your time."
Got it.
And he walks away. Dan and West close themselves in the freezer to look for a body to reanimate. West has a reason why most bodies won't work. Dan gets frustrated and is about to leave when West finds a body that he'll think will work. West says,
Yes, I think you.
"How long?"
He arrived early this morning.
It
John
says
Doe.
evening.
Early this evening. I can read. John Doe. Apparently just dropped dead. No record of any damage. He's almost perfect.
Why almost?
It could be heart damage.
Then let's just find another one.
No, we do not have time. All we need tonight is a specific conscious reaction. He's been dead for hours. Any evidence of reanimated consciousness will justify proceeding. Start the recorder. Start the dang recorder!
He hands the recorder to Dan. West continues.
Make the entry.
Dan says, "October
10th.
10th. Subject, male.
Age.
Age, early 20s.
Physical condition.
No deformities. Appears to have been in excellent physical condition. Apparent cause of death, what?
Heart failure. Time is 10:33 p.m.
Time is 10:33 p.m.
15 cc's.
15 cc's of reagent being administered. We cut to upstairs, where Megan tells her father.
He loves me. We're getting married.
Chris
And Dean
continues
Halsey
to say,
says.
Dean Halsey
Yeah.
says,
He's mad. I've seen this happen to medical students before. Good ones. Dr. Herod is Mr. Kane. Loose in this hospital?
Dr. Herod replies, "In the morgue! I think, doctor!"
I specifically told Dr. Riley to suspend him and to take him off the floor if he reported to work.
Dr. Riley's been in emergency surgery for 4 hours! I haven't seen him! Back to Dan and West, where West says,
Time elapsed.
15 seconds.
Something should have happened by now.
We hear a phone ring at Mace's desk, but he's not there to answer it. So Ghostface leaves the movie.
Oh, crazy.
Dan says, "It's not working. Let's get out of here."
Obviously, the human dosage factor is unknown. Increasing the dosage. 20 cc's of reagent.
Herbert, let's go!
No! Dang!
After a moment of waiting, Wes says, oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Dang!
We cut back upstairs. Dean Halsey says,
Page Mr. Kane, and have him report to the level L security desk. And make sure that she stays right here. He.
No, it's she.
Oh, she. In reference to my own daughter.
Yes.
Right here. And Megan says, You can't stop me. I followed you here, and I'm going to follow you until you listen to me. I love him. Megan, you're my daughter, and you will do as you're told.
Sit down, Miss Halsey! Mr. Kane will be up soon. You can discuss it then.
Megan yells after her dad. Don't blame him, Daddy.
Back to the morgue, where Dan says, We failed. Come on, let's go. Someone could be coming any minute. Wes slaps the corpse. You have to say that part, Chris, because you can't just slap it.
I was going to let you read it.
But you didn't. You start. You can't just do the miming because this is an audio podcast, Chris.
Yeah, that's fair.
So he slaps the corpse and says,
No, he slaps the corpse and says,
Someone could be.
He failed, not I.
Dan hears over the loudspeaker, Come up to the level L! Something like that, basically. I was just going to say that he hears the message, but because I had decided that I'm doing that great voice, I decided to, have her say it again,
So great.
Because we do hear her voice.
Yeah.
And that is the last time I believe we hear her in the... She
Until
does
the
say...
end of the movie.
She says his name, like, twice, but I don't think I even wrote that down, so you probably won't hear... I'll probably try to do it again. I might remember to do it then, just to do it.
Dan says...
What? Cover him up! Let's go! Let's go!
All right.
The corpse starts to twitch and sits up, screaming in pain, and with his veins bulging and blood coming from his mouth.
Yeah.
The corpse, or Melvin the Re-Animated, as he's credited, as is played by Peter Kent, who was Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt double in 14 movies, including Predator, Terminator, T2, and, most importantly, Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
I believe also, he was literally being the stunt double... around the same time they're filming this for Terminator, at the same time they're filming, he was, doing both.
Interesting.
Yeah. Melvin gets up and starts throwing bodies and gurneys around. Dean Halsey enters the autopsy room and heads to the door of the freezer. Dan and West try to grab Melvin, but he's able to throw them off. West yells.
Ah!
Melvin turns to him. West says.
He listened to me.
Melvin runs towards them and throws Dan across the room. Dan hears Halsey out on the other side of the door and tries to open it, but it's jammed. Melvin rushes towards him. Dan moves out of the way, and Melvin pushes the door off its hinges and onto Dean Halsey, crushing him. He picks up Halsey and pushes him up against the wall. Halsey tries to fight him off and gets 2 of his fingers bitten off. And a really fun gore effect, the gore finger bite. Fun. Melvin throws Halsey across the room at the wall and picks him up again. Dan and West try to pull him off of Halsey. It's to no avail as Melvin slams Halsey up against the wall. West goes over and breaks open a cabinet to get a bone saw. He saw through Melvin's back and out his chest in a super fun kill. Or re-kill, technically. But yeah, it's awesome. This is cool looking.
It's pretty sick.
West then checks on Halsey and calls over a mentally checked out Dan and tells him,
Find the recorder.
Herbert, no.
Did you see him, Dan? He listened to me. It made a conscious act.
He heard you as an animal would, Herbert. No, you can't be serious.
You may be right. It'd probably been dead too long. It wasn't fresh enough. Probably only revived the senses and the instincts. So come on, help me get him up.
Is he dead?
Of course. Will you give me a hand here? Now, he interrupted an important experiment in progress. Granted it was an accident, but this is the freshest body we could come across save of killing one ourselves. And every moment that we spend talking about it costs us results. Now, will you give me a hand? Dan, we can bring him back to life.
Dan helps West lift Halsey onto the table. West says,
Now get the recorder. Find my serum.
Wes starts to tie down Dean Halsey. Dan says, "This is a dream."
Fiction. Here, down his other hand. Oh, good. Unbreakable plastic. One of man's few durable inventions. Certainly more durable than this.
We cut back to upstairs, where Dr. Herod is pulled away from watching Megan, giving Megan a chance to get up and leave. Back to Wes and Dan. Wes says into the recorder,
12 cc's being administered. The dosage lessened in accordance to the freshness of the subject. 5 seconds. Come on. I'll show you. 15 seconds. I'll show you.
He slams his fist on the table. And when he does, Dean Halsey opens his eyes and starts to dribble out blood out of his mouth. I'm also having blood dribble out of my mouth. And starts to dribble blood out of his mouth. Wes says,
17 seconds. Reanimation at 17 seconds. The eyes opened. Dr. Halsey, you once did me a favor by letting me into your medical school. Doctor, welcome back to life.
We cut to the hall, where Megan has come down the elevator and is walking towards the morgue. She calls out, "Dan?" Oh, that's your line, sorry.
Dan?
Wes says,
"Dang the bad woman."
Dan replies, "Meg? Meg!" Dean Halsey pulls his hand loose and starts to choke Dan.
Meg asks, "Dan, what is it? Are you alright?"
She walks closer to the morgue door. West, hearing Halsey gurgle, says,
"Dad, he's trying to speak. The recorder."
Dean Halsey grabs West by the throat as well. In comes Meg, screaming.
"No, Daddy!"
Halsey drops Dan into West. Dean Halsey goes over to the corner. In comes Mace, who asks,
"What the hell happened here? Dan, you alright? Who's that?" And West replies, "That is Dean Halsey, sir. You see, I came down here to visit with Mr. Kane, who was here working, and Halsey entered and started ranting at us rather irrationally." Megan says, "No, he was just angry. Daddy, what happened?"
Mace notices Melvin and asks,
"Who's that over there?" West replies, "Just a corpse. You see, Halsey came in and grabbed that thing and, well, went crazy." Mace says, "Dean Halsey? Dean Halsey."
Dean Halsey responds by mumbling inaudibly. Alright, Chris, mumble inaudibly. Thank you. Mace walks out of the room saying,
"I'm calling the police."
Megan runs over to Dean Halsey, who just makes noises and cowers in the corner. Now get up and go cower in your corner. I'm kidding. Don't. Please don't. Chris, no. Dan falls to the ground in shock. West covers him up with the sheet they used to sneak West in, saying,
"Shock. Don't worry."
We cut to Megan looking at her dad in a padded room behind a one-way mirror. She says,
"Daddy?"
Dr. Hill joins her and says, "He can't hear you or see you." I don't like that. I got like really cockney. I don't know. I can't, you know. Oh, yeah, I can't say you. No, and he ain't even in really that.
Maybe too much.
Maybe a little bit. He can't hear you or see you. It's a one-way mirror.
Megan asks, "What is wrong with him, Doctor? Will he ever be..."
Until we know exactly what happened to him, there is no way to determine his course of recovery. That's why. I don't know what this voice is. It's not the voice I was doing earlier. I don't remember how to get back to that one.
Oops.
Yeah. That's why I need you to sign a release. I'm really British now. I wasn't before, but now I am. That's why I need you to sign a release so that I can perform exploratory surgery on him.
Megan asks, "Is that absolutely necessary, Dr. Hill?"
I know how difficult this must be for you, but I'm convinced that your father's problem is neurological. Of course, we'll take every precaution. You must trust me. She nods her head. He gestures to a model of a human head and continues, I want you to take a look at the right frontal lobe. I'll open the skull here."
"I don't want to know. Just to help him."
He hands her the release form and she signs it. Megan says,
"Please, Doctor. Please let me talk to him.
No, I must insist you leave this treatment up to me. I want you to think of me as someone you can come to with your problems. Or, if you're ever lonely, I know you're all by yourself now. His creepiness is interrupted by Dean Halsey, headbutting the mirror, scaring Megan. Megan cries and says,
What did you do to him?
Nope,
Nope.
I'm going.
I'm going to take care of him, Doctor. And I'm going to find out what happened to him.
She leaves. Dr. Hill goes into a padded room with a syringe after 2 psych ward guards try to restrain Halsey. The psych ward guards are played by James Ellis and James Earl Cathay.
I think.
We cut to Megan arriving at her house, and Dan is waiting inside to talk to her. She asks,
What are you doing here?
I've been waiting for you. I have to tell you.
What did you do to him? What did you and Wes do to him to make him like that?
It's horrible. We didn't.
What did you do to him?
When he doesn't respond, she slaps him. Dan says, He's not insane. Megan slaps him again. Dan continues, He's dead.
No. You're insane. You are insane. No.
You know it's true, Meg. You know it's true.
No.
And she sinks to the floor sobbing. Dan says, I'll tell you, Meg. Everything. We cut to West in the basement of his and Dan's place. Dr. Hill walks in and says, Good evening, Mr. West.
What do you want?
I want to know why Halsey's heart fibrillates,
I don't have to talk to you.
why his pulse is erratic,
I told everything I know to the police.
why he cries out in pain,
You can leave now, Doctor.
when we both know he is quite dead. Interesting little laboratory you have here. Oh, Mr. West, I recognize this.
What do you want?
Yes, we are both scientists. Let's get to the point. I want your discovery. Whatever it is that gives the dead the appearance of life.
Oh, it's not the appearance of life. It is life. This is not magic, as you say. I am a scientist.
I'll have you locked up for a madman or a murderer. You will do what I tell you to do. Governor? Wait, oh yeah, West, stop it. If you're gonna mime stuff, say the line. West hands him his notes. Hill starts to flip through them and says, Genius, Mr. West. Your extension of that old fool Gruber's work is really quite brilliant. We cut to Dan and Meg breaking into Dr. Hill's office, which is where her dad is being kept. Because apparently that's the psych ward. I don't know.
Yeah.
Dan asks, Has Dr. Hill examined your father?
Yes. I wanted to do exploratory surgery on him.
Poop! You'll find out. Eventually you'll find out. Back to the basement where Hill says, Let us see. My new serum at work, He looks in a microscope. West says,
Dead cat tissue? Reagent?
While Hill looks at the reaction, West gets up and grabs a shovel. Hill gets up from the microscope and says, Yes, Mr. West, I will be famous. West knocks him down with a shovel to the side of the head. West then decapitates Hill with the shovel, saying,
Plagiarist.
In a really cool kill. Oh, that's really fun.
Yeah.
Really good looking. Really fun. West puts Hill's head in an instrument tray. When it won't stand, he uses a receipt spike to keep the head from falling over.
Yeah, pretty funny.
Yeah, it's great. This is the point where there's the movie really starts having some really dark comedy moments, and some just overtly slapstick comedy moments as well.
Yeah.
West gets an idea, an awful idea, a wonderfully awful idea. That's a reference to The Grinch for anyone who didn't catch it. And he injects Hill's head and then body with reagent because he's never done the whole parts before. Hill's head says, West.
Yeah. He sure does do that. And Russ replies, Yes, Doctor. It's Herbert West. What are you thinking? How do you feel?
You best fatherless child. Hill's body grabs West by the head and knocks him out on the table. Back to Hill's office. Dan finds a creepy file in Meg that includes a lock of her hair. Ew.
Yeah.
While he's flipping through the files, Megan heads into the padded room. She reaches out, and when her dad turns, she yells,
Dan! Oh my god! What has Hill done to him?
Dan looks at his forehead and says, Looks like the laser drill. Your father's been lobotomized. We cut back to West, who comes to and sees all of his notes and reagent gone. He yells,
That's it! My work! My work!
Dan comes down the stairs and says, What's going on?
My work is gone. It's all gone. He took my serum. Except for what I have upstairs.
Huh? What happened here?
Hill took my serum. I had to kill him.
You skipped you skipped like half your line.
He took my serum, my notes, everything.
Herbert, you're insane. And what happened here?
Oh yeah, right. I had to kill him.
What? He's dead?
Not anymore.
No, Herbert, this has got to stop.
Look, he tried to blackmail me, Dan, and he wanted you to disappear.
Oh, that's why he did it to Halsey.
What? You've seen Halsey?
He lobotomized him, so he could control him, in case he ever tried to talk or tell somebody what happened.
So he could protect his discovery.
Yes.
Very clever.
I gotta tell Meg.
What does Meg have to do with this?
Hill's got this weird file on her. It's full of napkins and hair and photographs. I think he's projected some sort of psychic need onto her. Psychotic even.
There you go.
Psychotic need onto her.
Ha 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 ha. West laughs.
We cut to Hill entering his office. His body fumbles around a bit and injects his head with more reagent. Then his body stumbles into the wall. Oh, that's silly.
Yeah.
Which his head rolls its eyes at. Which I'll be honest, it works for me. Like, it is silly. It is like, we've gone to a Looney Tunes cartoon in the middle of this movie. But I'm okay with that. This movie is the right level of camp for my enjoyment. Where was I? The head rolls its eyes. He gets some blood from the fridge and adds more to the tray his head is in. He enjoys it and says, Yes! His body picks him up and he says, To Alan. His body walks over to the mirror where he says, Alan. Halsey responds because somehow Hill has a psychic link to the reanimated corpses he lobotomized. Which, I will say, in the original cut of the movie that was way too long and was never actually like shown to anyone, there was like scenes that explain this. Apparently he like was psychic and like there was a scene of him hypnotizing Halsey earlier in the movie. It's like it showed like an explanation for this, but they decided no one cares. Just let him have a psychic link. Who cares? Just do it. And I think that's fine. I also don't like, yeah, is it weird? And you're like, why is he psychic now? Whatever, I don't care. I immediately go, whatever.
Yeah, this is a movie about a reanimating juice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there was actually an explanation for this completely, wait, what? Moment, technically, but it got cut, so.
Yeah.
Hill says, Yes, Alan, it's time for you to come out now. We cut to Hill's body topped with the model head on top of it, dressed like a doctor, and with Hill's head in a duffel bag. And he slips past Mace. Mace hears the model's ear fall to the floor and asks,
Is that you, Dr. Hill?
Hill replies, Yes, it's me, in a muffled voice because of the bag, but somehow not reanimated snake voice at all.
Yeah.
It's just this one line. The rest of, like, while he's reanimated, he, like, talks like this.
Yeah.
But this one time, he's like, yeah, no, it's me. Well, you got a problem with that? I'm in a bag. I can't do two voices. I can either be muffled or I can be Snake. I can't be muffled Snake.
The two cannot be the same.
After you know, he does the weird no Snake voice saying that. Mace goes on break, leaving the door unguarded because Mace is the worst security guard ever.
Yeah. Well, he's only guarding just the morgue room.
Yeah. After they're inside, Hill's body opens the bag and his head gasps for air and says, "Oh, that's better." His body puts the head into a new instrument pan. His body goes and takes a body out of the freezer. Bum, bum.
Ah, 2 bodies.
2 bodies! We cut to Dan pounding on Megan's door. She opens the door and says... She opens the door and Dan says, "I'm so afraid."
What is it? What's the matter?
I don't know. I was just worried about you. I don't know why I've decided to not just tell you the thing I was coming to tell you. Now I'm going to be like, I don't know. It's a really weird choice for, like, this whole scene's like, what?
Yeah. That's interesting, to say the least.
Sorry, I normally explain my dislike of a scene after the scene, but I'm going to do it the first line, because it's, like, immediately like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's pretty goofy.
So, yeah, I'm just worried about you.
Why?
I just feel horrible about everything. I guess I'm just getting paranoid. It's just so hard to lose you.
You should go away. Transfer to another school.
Don't worry about me. You're the one who should get away. Go live your life. Find somebody.
I tried to hate you. I wanted so much to hate you.
I love you. He leans in for a kiss, but is interrupted by Dean Halsey breaking through the door. Halsey slams Dan. Halsey slams Dan into the wall, leaving a big blood smear. One that would make you think he's, like, dead, maybe.
Dead.
But no, he's not. Don't worry. He grabs Megan, and we cut to the morgue, where Hill is lobotomizing a corpse. We hear knocking at the door, and Hill's head tells his body, "The door." His body opens the door and lets in Halsey, who brings in Megan. She's placed on a table, stripped down and tied up. We cut to West, waking up Dan. Dan remembers that Megan was taken and asks, "Where, Herbert?"
In the most Dan line so far, really. West replies, "She's at the hospital, I imagine. Can you stand up? Let's go."
We cut back to the morgue, and Hill's body and head is really gross and creepy with the tied up Megan, who comes to.
Yeah.
In walks West, who says,
"I must say, Dr. Hill, I'm very disappointed in you. You steal the secret of life and death, and here you are trying to with a bubble-headed co-ed. Trysting with a bubble-headed co-ed. You're not even a second-rate scientist."
I can understand the confusion because I've never heard the word trysting, but apparently means, like, rendezvousing with a lover.
Yeah, which isn't really what I would call this.
No, I would call this assault. I will call it assault. I think I can say the word assault. I think if I just say assault and don't put any other words with it, it's okay.
Yeah, it is just assault.
Yeah. So, yeah. But it is, to be fair, it is some great line delivery and whatnot. Like, West is great. So.
Yeah, West is great.
West, because here's the thing. Yes, you're right. That's it. But I love that even in this moment where West is, he still has to demean him and talk about how she's a bubble-headed co-ed.
In this specific moment, yeah.
Yeah, of all times.
The high ground.
Gosh.
Oh, yes.
You.
How below you or below me are you?
I mean, I'll bring it up here. There's also, like, definitely, like, it's never said, and I don't think it was even intended, but there's almost, like, a love triangle story here. I feel like West is secretly in love with Dan and is really, really dislikes Megan forever taking him away from him. Like, when she's here. Like, just the way he seems so, like, upset that she's ruining his molding of... It's not, like, full love triangle, but it feels like, I don't know. I like it. It's good. This movie's good.
It's a pretty fun dynamic, yeah.
Hill says, "Oh, Mr. West, I'm actually glad to see you. It saves me the trouble of having to send for you." While this conversation is happening, Dan sneaks in to save Megan. Wes says,
"You never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow."
Hill says, "I wonder why an intelligent young man like yourself, should make such a foolish, fatal mistake of coming here to challenge me."
"Oh, I have a plan."
"So do I." At this point, his army of reanimated corpses wake up. The reanimated corpses are played by the late Annis Holzman, Velvet Dubois, Lawrence Lowe, Robert Holcomb, Mike Thaloon, Craig Reed, Jack Drahim, and Robert Pitzel. They grab Dan and Megan. Dan fights back the best he can, but gets tossed across the room and knocked out. Wes tries to inject more reagent into Hill to overload him, but Hill pushes him down to the ground. Hill yells, "That's enough!" His army stops attacking Megan and Dan and picks up Wes for him. Hill says, "I spoke of power, Mr. West." Sorry, I needed a breath. This voice is not fun to do. "My discovery, the laser surgical drill, makes possible a new technique in lobotomy, which results in a total mastery of human will. Reanimated subjects have proven to be the best. They will give me power, and I've dreamed of power." Hill starts the laser drill on West's forehead. Dan has come to and is protecting Megan from Dean Halsey. Megan says,
"Daddy, listen to me. It's Megan. Megan!"
Dan yells, "Hill, they're gonna kill her! And I'll give her life."
"Look at me."
Dean Halsey does, and pushes the other reanimated corpses away from her. He looks around and goes over, attacking Hill's body, stopping him from lobotomizing West. Halsey pushes Hill's body into the hall as Mace walks up. Dan fights off some reanimated corpses while Halsey crushes and tosses Hill's heads through the doorway into the hallway's wall. Wes notices when Hill is hurt, the other reanimated corpses are hurt. Dan tries to help West and Megan out, but West doesn't want to leave, and Megan has to be stopped from trying to save her dad. West then shoots up Hill's body with more reagent, causing it to convulse. All the corpses start freaking out. Hill's intestines shoot out and wrap themselves around West, and he's pulled away into a cloud of fumes caused by a chemical reaction one of the corpses accidentally caused. And fun fact, the way that the scene was filmed is they did it in reverse. They tied it around him and then pulled it away, and then reversed the shot.
Interesting.
Yeah. Corpse runs at Dan and Megan, but is stopped by Halsey, who gets swarmed by the other corpses and ripped to death. Bum, bum, bum. West uses his last bit of energy to throw his notes to Dan as he leaves the morgue. As Dan and Megan try to get on the elevator, one of the corpses attacks them, but Dan is able to fight it off. Right as the elevator door is closing, one of the other corpses starts to choke Megan. Dan runs and gets an axe to stop the corpse and chops off its arm, and then has to pull the arm off because the arm is still choking her. But Megan's already passed out. Boom. He rushes to the emergency room, where he and the doctors, including Dr. Harad, try to save her. After they can't, Dr. Harad says, "Kane! Kane!" So they stop. And then he's sad. He gives her a kiss, and then he has a realization. And he goes to the bag from West. He pulls out some reagent, and he puts it to the back of her neck, not at all close to her brainstem.
Yeah.
Not even close at all. And then
just reanimate her spine. It's fine.
Yeah, and we fade to black. Kind of, not fully to black. We actually take the flame. The reagent is still glowing. It's a really cool thing, and even as he pushes it in, it disappears more.
a little bit poorly keyed out, but it's
I
fine.
mean,
'Cause
yeah, but it's
cool.
this movie's from 1985, okay?
Yeah,
Um,
it's a little goofy, but
yeah.
it's a cool effect.
Yeah, and as we fade to black, we hear Megan scream, and we go to our credits. So my thoughts on this movie are, I really like it. I think it's really fun. This is one of the few horror movies I like. Not few, but like one of the horror movies I went out of my way to like. I heard about and watched before the podcast. I didn't do that with a lot of them, so like. This is one of those movies like I was like I gotta see this when I watched a video on it, and it lived up to what I wanted from it. It's super fun gore, some amazing acting from Jeffrey Combs, and some decent enough acting from everyone else. And also, I will also give credit to Hill. I think Hill does a really good job playing a creepy like doctor guy, like.
Yeah.
But yes, sure. Technically, Dan is not the greatest actor ever, but he does good enough that he doesn't stand out as being like bad,
Overtly bad.
Yeah. So like he's just like okay, and that's fine.
Jeffrey Combs is a
Combs.
treasure in this movie.
Eats up every scene he's in. Chris said a word there, and yeah, spoiler, I think Jeffrey Combs will be on my short list for National Treasure inductees this December. We'll see if I remember to do that.
Enough.
But Jeffrey Combs, boy, is he just the way he just eats up every scene he is in this movie. And then
the kids would say he chewed.
Yeah, and then like just the gore effects are so fun. It's so practical. It's like I love a good practical gore effect, and like they're all practical. I think the only not practical effect in the whole movie is the laser of the laser drill. Was added in post. But even the smoke coming off the laser is cigar smoke. Like
Thanks.
Yeah. This it's fun. I really enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to watching at least the first sequel. I've heard that it definitely is very diminishing qualities when you get to the third one, but still, I'm excited. And I know what you're thinking. How is there a sequel? Herbert West is clearly he's not. Just deal with it. Accept it. It's like the first scene. I'm not spoiling anything, but yeah, no, Herbert West is alive. He lived. You didn't get that from that ending? No, he did. Because he was the star of the movie. We couldn't do another one without him. So no, he's alive. No, he's alive. Okay. Don't worry, he's alive.
Well, how will they get into shenanigans without Dr. Herbert West?
Honestly, exactly. But yeah, I didn't let you say your thing. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a very fun, not silly movie, but it was an over the top movie. The acting was exactly what you would want out of a movie like this, and that's all I'll say. And the gore effects are insane and over the top as well. The only thing I wasn't a super big fan of was the Dr. Hill being creepy to a lady on an operating table. Yeah. But aside from that, a really fun, good time.
Yeah. And next week, we're going to talk about the sequel that came out like a few years after, something like that. I don't remember exactly when. Which is The Bride of Re-Animator. Get it? Like Bride of Frankenstein? Get it?
No, I don't understand.
Sorry, let me try again. Like Bride of Chucky. Do you get it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, that's been, and then we'll also cover the third one, which was like made in the 2000s, like straight to video. So yeah, I don't know, that'll be fun. Maybe. I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself. Next week, Bride of Re-Animator. If you like this podcast, please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you use. If you're on YouTube, you can see our pretty little faces. Chris does a bunch of miming without just saying things, so it's just awkward silence while he mimes.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, I guess.
A little bit.
But no, youtube.com/@horrorboys if you want to see our video podcast. What else? Patreon.com/horrorboys. Right. You can get this podcast early most of the time. I mean, you'll get this one like 12 hours early today for this week.
Yippee.
Oopsie. And lastly, before I say actually goodbye, remember, screw the AMPTP.
That's right.
So yeah, I've been Austin, joined by Chris as always. We will see you next week. Bye-bye!
Bye-bye.